This guy brutally murdered 2 people with absolutely no reason other than his rage and his history of domestic violence against his wife, which went ignored because he was a celebrity. And in my own heart, OJ never asked for forgiveness, and I certainly never gave it. Viva, how do you see it?
Well, oddly enough, Megan, Robert Barnes, our Sunday nightly show, he believes OJ was innocent. I do not believe OJ was innocent. I still don't believe in reveling in the death of someone and saying, God finally got you. It might be the case. God finally got OJ, and he'll have to repent for whatever he did in this life, wherever he is now. But how do I feel? I remember exactly where I was. I was staying with my aunt and uncle in California. I remember the television showing people cheering, people jeering at the acquittal. I remember the trial. I remember everything about it. It was an iconic moment of my growing up. I think I was 14 or 15. But I was always just shocked by him taking to social media like that was not part of his life. Even if he were innocent, what he did on social media was rubbing in the nose of the victims what the accusations were against him. I thought it was always a sign of a narcissist of sorts to come out and boast to the world, you all know what I did, or you all know what you think I did, and I'm going to come out and pretend like it never happened and make a social media account and make jokes about it. I never thought that was appropriate. But maybe
he even, Phil, wrote a book called If I Did It, about which there was so much controversy, they had to pull the book because people were not ready for that wink and a nod recount by OJ, which Marcia Clark has had a lot of comments on this show about, suggesting it wasn't a true recitation anyway of how he did it. But, this is a guy who got away with double murder and one of the worst one could commit. I mean, the mother of his children with them steps away inside and then went on. I looked just to see at his Twitter account, he's got hundreds of thousands of followers, a lot of love for his tweets and likes. I mean, people somehow went on to be like, oh, okay, and hung their hats on, well, he was acquitted, or maybe not even saying that. What are you feeling about it?
Well, a lot of people, Megan, think that just because a jury says somebody's not guilty, that that's the end of it. And of course, we know that's not true. I'm one of the people that's old enough to remember the OJ prior to the murders. I was sitting with some law school classmates, I think, having beers, watching a basketball tournament, if I'm not mistaken, when that slow speed chase happened. And then, of course, the trial and the case progressed through the court system, and my professors were using it almost as like a real life case study on what's going on. And then we had, this new evidence. We had DNA that was just coming into sort of the fore of being able to be used in criminal cases. And then fast forward to the verdict. I remember, apparently I was 1 year behind you in law school, because in my last year, I was working as an intern, actually trying cases at the DA's office in Houston, Texas. And when the verdict was read, we were in the judge's chambers. And if I'm not mistaken, it was on my birthday. And the judge made a comment that, look, you never know what a jury's going to do. And she reminded us, she said, look, you got to remember that the jury is not seeing all of the evidence that those of us who are watching the trial see. Fast forward to today. And, we've got lots of people who follow you on YouTube and on social media, same with Viva and me. And a lot of these people are trial watchers, and they oftentimes know a lot more about the facts of the case than a jury who's actually hearing the case might. And this goes to how important it is who the judge is, because the judge controls what information the jury sees. And remember, there was a lot of this that we know about, that we saw, that Marcia Clark, I'm sure, will talk to you about, but the jury never saw. And then you add into that is certain things like, whether or not it was the right venue, whether or not it was a jury that was overly sympathetic to the defendant or overly antagonistic, perhaps, to prosecutors and police. And what you have is a jury reaching a result that I think most people today who watch the case disagree with. But the lesson is there. Juries do not always get it right. They frequently get it wrong. This is one that they did get wrong. And his legacy, unfortunately for him, is that he is a brutal double murder, regardless of what that jury might say.
That was a case in which now it's, these facts are known, but of course, Johnny Cochran played the race card. And as his co-counsel, Robert Shapiro, said, and he played it from the bottom of the deck. But now we know, of course, Shapiro was somebody whose reputation in LA amongst the Tony crowd was important to him. He both wanted the fame and glory of representing OJ, but he also wanted to belong and get the best dinner reservations. So why didn't he stop the race card from being played, right? Because Johnny Cochran did play it, and you know what? It worked. It worked.
Megan, who was
beautifully.
Who
he was in a powder keg of a community that hated the police because of a lot of things that had happened, Rodney King and so on. Keep going, Viva.
Who was that cop, the racist cop in it that
Van Adder or Furman?
Oh yeah, Furman. I remember. But also,
Furman
wasn't there an issue about them having planted blood on OJ's sock in order?
Yes, Van Adder. This is what Dershowitz says all the time about how they had a sock that had OJ's blood and Nicole's blood tested. And he, as he points out, that's great evidence for the prosecution. OJ says he wasn't even there, and now you've got his sock with both blood on it. That's kind of ball game. But they had it tested, and it had a chemical that you would only have gotten in the lab. And so it showed that somebody's blood had been dumped on the sock from a test tube as opposed to the other.
If you got to frame a guilty man, you still have to hold the system to account. And if you have to frame a guilty man, it's because you're not doing something right. So guilty as he might have been, there could have been some serious problems, which even today we might appreciate. But today the problem is everybody's guilty now anyhow. So criminal defendants stand no chance even when they're innocent. But back in the day, even if he were guilty, if the system is planting evidence, you're going to have to let one guilty person go free to make sure that nobody does that type of chicanery on a going forward basis.
Mm-hmm. I don't, I understand. Alan said many times that people who actually sat and watched the trial every day were not surprised by the verdict, and people who just watched the highlights on TV were. And honestly, this was kind of my experience where I just watched highlights because I was in law school. I was busy. But my then boyfriend, who was out of a job at the moment, watched everything. And he and I had this split where he was like, I'm not surprised at all. This was the right result. And I was like, you're an insane lunatic. But separate and apart from whether the jury got that right, there's what you can prove in a court of law and holding a dirty cop accountable. And then there's what you believe. And I have zero doubt that OJ Simpson committed those murders. There was a history of domestic violence against his wife. That's indisputable. I don't care. And I love Robert Barnes. I think he's brilliant. But that's indisputable. He was a wife beater. And it's on tape, and you could hear her terror, and she had filled out a will at age, 30-something, and she had put pictures of her bruised and bloody face in a safe deposit box. And that's, when I look at that picture of this young, beautiful woman with everything in front of her, this young, gorgeous mom of 2 young kids, and this guy with everything. He made the most of what America has to offer, and we rewarded him with love and riches and fame and adoration. And he couldn't control his violent fury enough to stop him from almost slicing the head off of his own children's mother. That's what I will remember OJ Simpson for. And I believe right now he's paying. He's paying for those crimes. Do you owe back taxes? Pandemic relief is now over. Along with hiring thousands of new agents and field officers, the IRS has kicked off 2024 by sending over 5 million pay-up letters to those who have unfiled tax returns or balances owed. Don't waive your rights and speak with them on your own. Tax Network USA, a trusted tax relief firm, has saved over $1 billion in back taxes for their clients, and they can help you secure the best deal possible. Whether you owe 10 grand or 10 million, they can help you. Whether it's business or personal taxes, even if you have the means to pay or you're on a fixed income, they can help finally resolve your tax burdens once and for all. Call 1-800-245-6000 for a private, free consultation or visit tnusa.com/Megan. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.